Good evening. It is 6:45, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. The good news is I just checked the weather report, and any kind of liquid precipitation, whether it's frozen or not, shouldn't get here till after about midnight or so. So we should have no trouble getting the meeting done and getting you all home safely. So I did just check that. So those of you who don't know, I'm Jane Ossinger. I'm the current president of the Guild. Everybody take a seat, please. Everybody take a seat and be quiet now. So looking forward to the presentation part of the meeting tonight with Keith Lassant. We have a little business to take care of before that. So go ahead and flip. I somehow lost a couple of slides, so before we give a chance to see if there are any new members or visitors tonight, I want to at least tell you who haven't been here before, or who don't know much about how things work. We do have a show and tell. That show and tell is just before the presentation of the evening, and the other thing is we do have a raffle. So I think we have two $50 gift certificates to Rockler again. So that will also be just before we have the presentation itself then. Joe Turner, the treasurer, has been going around eliciting money from you to get tickets for the raffle. And so hopefully a lot of you were confronted by him and have put some money in there. Usually we end up making a little bit of money, so that goes to the Guild, obviously, to our coffers. So are there any new members or visitors here tonight? If you are, okay, we have a portable microphone. So wait till they come, put your hand up again, and if you're handed the microphone, we'd like you to stand up and tell your name and a little bit about yourself, like what have you done already in woodworking, what you're interested in, and how you found out about anything you want to say. Okay, so we have new one.
Okay, my name is Mona Murphy. I have been rebuilding a house that I bought. I have some woodworking tools that I used, and I've made some things, cabinet doors, different kinds of things. But now I am trying to make countertops and make some other things. I bought a shopsmith from my friend's father, and I want to be able to use it and make some more stuff. So I'm here to pick your brains.
That's the way to do it. Was that hard?
Thank you. I started with a shopsmith too. Mark Adams at the Mark Adams School of Woodworking started with a shopsmith, believe it or not. So that's excuse me? That's quite an undertaking you're doing, so proud of you. Okay, next person. Over here.
How you doing? My name's Randy Melovitz, and I just started doing the woodworking in about a year ago. And I built a shot glass cabinet and a bunch of lathe. I've been working with lathe for a while, and making some. Made a little box to connect I forgot what it's called, a lidded box. That's what it is. Just made that last night. Wow. Over at Woodcraft.
Are the shot glasses wood?
What's that?
Are the shot glasses made of wood?
Hell yeah. It was a long time doing. Yeah, and so.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
You're going to invite us over to try out the shot glass?
Hell yeah, I got a lot of whiskey, a lot of brandy.
Tequila.
Irish whiskey?
No.
Okay, next.
Good evening, my name is Dries Albert. I'm from Namibia, Southwest Africa, and I work with David at Faust Park. So the easiest way to pronounce my name is to think of the country Greece. Instead of a G, you do a D. So for tonight, me and David are representing St. Louis County Parks, and David is going to present in a few minutes how the county parks want to work with the guild, and I'll be available to answer questions after his presentation. Nice to be here.
Thank you, Dries. Good to see you.
Hi, my name's Mike Kenny. It's the first time I'm here, obviously. I watched the video from last month and was interested in finding one of the guys who was here who was talking about a CNC project about a little oil lamp thing. So if anybody knows who it is, let me know. But, oh, okay. All right. So yeah, I want to make some signs and different things. I've done a few projects here and there over the years, but that's about it.
We did strategic seating here, so you'd be right beside him there.
Hi, my name's TJ. I moved to St. Louis about a year ago, and I've got some carpentry experience, but the finer woodworking skills have eluded me. So I'd like to get more smarter.
Well, you have a lot of teachers here, yeah. Is there one more over there? Anybody else? Hold your hand up. Okay, well, welcome all of you, and hopefully you'll end up finding what you wanted here. I think we have a wonderful group of people, and hopefully you'll be here for quite some time in the future as well then. Okay, next one. So Bill Schuchat, I think you have a little few slides about upcoming presentations and classes. So Mike's going to be doing it there.
Upcoming presentations, Keith is going to be presenting hand-powered scroll saw and other hand-powered tools tonight. Next month, we're having a presentation from the Habitat guys out in St. Charles about Habitat and how it works. Bob was telling me that they have 36 houses under construction right now. They're a busy group.
In what kind of area?
St. Charles.
Just in our area, not nationally you're talking about. That's just locally.
Just the
Wow.
St. Charles group. There's a
Amazing.
St. Louis group that's separate from that.
It's amazing. Jimmy Carter isn't helping. He went as long as he could. He's pretty amazing. He's alive.
Yeah. At the March meeting, Dan Lender's going to talk about his building a bedroom set. I think we've seen some jigs and stuff that he's used for that, so that should be pretty interesting. Next slide. Upcoming classes, the end of this month, we've got a sharpening class, sharpening straight edge chisels and plane blades. And the 28th, we're going to have a morning session doing sharpening and an afternoon session that'll be the new fundamentals class. February, we have a class on joinery, and then there are 2 more fundamentals classes. The first half of the fundamentals class meets every 2 weeks. In March, Don Turner is going to teach everybody how to build drawers. On March 9th is our Superstar Weekend event, and I'll let Lender talk about that if he wants to talk. There's another fundamentals class, and at the end of the month there's a beginner scroll saw class. I think that's all. I don't know if you can read this. My reading at this distance isn't so great, so I'm not going to go over it, but there are a whole raft of other classes that are already posted. So go to the website and take a look at what's available. And it's the only time we've got some open classes that aren't assigned yet is November and December, I think. Back to you, Jay.
Thank you, Bill. Most of you know about our toy program. We have donated toys to many people, but mostly to children in children's hospitals and so on, and many other groups as well. Rich Weissman, I say this every month, but he, I think, is the only one left that is a charter member of our guild, starting way back from when the guild started, and he is our toy chairman. So, Rich, give us an update. There he is.
We had 3 hospitals that needed toys this month, and if my memory is correct, there were 180 toys that I put in sacks to be delivered to the 3 hospitals. And we've got a bunch of new toys here, and we can use more toys. We're low on helicopters, even though we got a few tonight. And we're also running a little lower on the guild cars. And so that's where we stand right now.
Thank you. I think one of the most amazing thing, if you look at the total, 1994 is when this program started, and the number is now over 87,000, if I'm correct. Is that right, Rich?
Yes.
Toys donated, 87,000 toys in that period of time, so that's pretty amazing.
I'm pretty sure, though, that that's not from '94.
Okay.
Because I don't think anyone but me has a record of how many toys were given in those days. You do have? That's good. How you got them when I was the only one that had them, I don't know, but I thought I was. So obviously I gave it to someone else back then.
Okay, so Wayne Humphrey is in charge of the Christmas build, toy build and so on, including the Festival of Trees. And he's just getting ready to get geared up again and start for the, believe it or not, in early February for the Christmas of 2024. So, Wayne.
Yeah, we're going to start building toys the first Friday in February, be doing it the first and third Fridays of every month. If you'd like to get an email reminder of that, come and make sure I've got your email address. Try to send out a reminder about Wednesday before the build. We've got, we had 1,698 toys that got donated through the Christmas program last year, so. Yeah. We meet at the shop to do that, and you're more than welcome to build toys at home and contribute them also. Bring them in, we'll find a place to store them if you don't have room to store them at your house until the Christmas season. We wrap it all up right before Thanksgiving. So.
Any final numbers on the Festival of Trees and how much they brought in and stuff, or you know anything about that? Okay. So we had a nice display there, and well, I'm sure we're going to continue to do that as well. So. Okay, Dan.
Yes, Superstar Weekend is
It's
coming, March 9th.
coming quickly.
I talked with Logan just last week, and he's making plans to make a long weekend of it with his wife. So the venue room where we're going to hold it is just right down this aisle to what they call the Gateway 500 room. And for those of you that have registered, you'll get an informational email from me approximately February 1st outlining all the details, and then you'll get another email asking you to what your choice is from a lunch menu. And those of you that have not registered, there's still plenty of room for you to do so. So, you know, please sign up. It should be a good time with Logan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. He's worked amazingly hard, and he did the program last year too, and with no hesitation, we talked him into, or tried to talk him into coming back this year, and he's at it again. So, Rich, let's see. Logan Whitmer is his last name, right? So he is the current editor-in-chief of popular woodworking. That's one of his current titles and so on. So we really look forward to seeing him. Okay, next. Okay, so now is the time we're going to space your Dave and Dries to come up and talk a little bit about Faust Park and new programs that are being presented to us.
Okay, my name's David Gronefeld, and I am with the Guild. I am the shop monitor, but I also am a worker at Faust Park. And the park has, my supervisor, Dries, has come to me and asked if I could introduce some ideas to the Guild where the Guild and the park could work together on a variety of programs that are all kind of interconnected, all having to do with wood. Dries has written some proposals for the park system and has gotten some wood processing equipment. We have a sawmill and also splitting, what do you call it? Yeah, firewood splitter that cranks out a bunch of firewood that we can use in the parks. The idea is to utilize some of the many trees that our forestry crew cuts down throughout the park system, and they just basically pile them up in a gigantic pile and then once a year chip them all up into mulch. And so he was looking for a way that those resources could be a little bit better utilized, and so he came up with a couple of ideas about that. And he would like the park system, he would like the Guild to participate in some of these programs. So there's basically 3 components, and they all kind of interreact. The first one is the establishment of a enchanted forest, and I'm not sure if that's the actual name that's going to be associated with this in the long run. But it's approximately a 1/4 acre area. It's got a trail that goes through it. And the idea is that we will put out structures that are supposedly inhabited by mystical forest creatures, okay? And so what we need is a lot of forest creature homes and massive amounts of them. The audience is aimed at children. It's supposed to be a venue for us the park system, to develop some programs where the children can decorate or participate in constructing some of the structures. They can be placed out in the area. School groups, art departments can have a particular area or a particular structure that they then work on and can put into the forest. And according to Tom Tierney, millions of people will come to see this. When this was introduced to him, that was his response. So we're expecting this to be a popular event. So what do they want the Guild to do? Is they want the Guild to participate in building some of the structures, and not just homes, but bridges and wind chimes and things such as that. So the benefits to the Guild. It's a good outreach to the community. There will be signage associated with this that lists who's participated in constructing the structures that are in the area, and we would be on that. It would generate goodwill between the Guild and the park system to keep up the good relationship that we have with them. The forest would also give the Guild an opportunity for promotion, so that people would see that the Guild has contributed to this, maybe developed interest in people joining the Guild, but it might also generate interest in people wanting these types of structures in their own garden. So the Guild conceivably could construct some of these structures that could be sold to the interested parties as a fundraiser for the guild. So there is an opportunity that maybe it could be a source of revenue for the guild as millions of people will come. Surely some of them would want some of this in their own gardens. We will. We've already got plans for, I've already mentioned that. We'll need a bigger parking lot. The second component was Dries was interested in developing a class through the park system. The park system already has certain programs and classes that it presents, and it would want one to use the wood that we're milling to do an epoxy class, and for that, the main component would be know-how. If guild members wanted to assist in instructing the class, and I think we even actually have one member that has already kind of suggested that they would be willing to do that. I also should mention that many guild, or several members of the guild have already contributed to the Enchanted Forest. The volunteers, Jerry, Dale, Keith, Al, they've all, Les, I'm not sure, I haven't seen Les in a while, but I think maybe Les has been, yeah, Les was talked about this too. I've already kind of come up with a couple of structures, and Keith has also made some decorations for him. I got those decorations right over there. I can get those out in just a second here and show you. But so there's already been some contributions from the guild, and I want to thank those members that come out and volunteer at the park. They really do help a lot out at the park and do a lot for us, and Keith is going to tell you more about that, I think, tonight. Okay, so I don't know what I must have hit the button already. Oh, the art fair. So the third component is August 24th is the park is going to host an art fair. And the art fair will rent slots to school groups, to the public, and to the guild to present their wares. So for example, if the guild were to make some epoxy projects that could be sold, again, as a revenue maker for the guild, the art fair would be a venue for them to sell them. Or the structures for the Enchanted Forest would also be available for sale. It's kind of focused on the school groups, and the groups that participate in the Enchanted Forest would be given a reduced fee, or maybe even have the fee waived for the slot, because they had participated in building the structures in the Enchanted Forest, so they would be granted a reduced or waived fee for the slot. And if guild members could also individually sell their, if they wanted to rent, they would have to then rent a slot, but that would be a venue that guild members could individually sell things if they so chose. But the idea is that the guild would have a venue to sell the items for fundraising in the park system. Okay, so, oops, I hit the wrong button. All right, and then there's some examples of the structures. Wind chimes, I think that's one of the middle picture there, I believe, is one of the structures that the volunteers out at the park have made, and bridges going between the structures. Down at the bottom is a little house that one of the park employees has made. So those are some examples, and I brought a couple other examples that I put on the table over here. I'll get those out. So this would be an example of a small home. Doesn't necessarily have to have a water-powered wheel on the side of it necessarily, but that's a nice touch. And then Keith left this little package on my desk at the park today. So he's made a bunch of woodland mystical creatures that we can then hang in decoration around in the area. So I've got a whole bag full. I guess I should keep it closed so they don't fly out of there. But anyway, so thank you very much, Keith. Any questions about any of those? Yes, sir.
Is this going to be indoor or outdoor display?
This is the Enchanted Forest is an outdoor display, and we understand that means that there's going to be deterioration. We understand that. That's what's going to happen. That's why we need lots of homes to replenish the ones that deteriorate over time. But yeah, it is an outdoor. That is an outdoor activity.
Is this anticipated to be a permanent exhibit, or
Is-
just for 1 year?
Is this anticipated to be a permanent exhibit, is the question, and the answer is yes. It's supposed to be permanent so that when we build our larger parking lot, it won't be a waste of money and energy. Because millions of people are going to attend. Hopefully not all exactly at the same time, but sure. Dries wants to add something.
Yep, so first of all, I'm here to tell you tonight that county parks want to have a relationship with the guild. This is, according to me, it's the perfect ideal scenario. The government is here to support you. One hand washes the other. So I see a bright future here. I've been at Faust Park for 3 months. Before that, I was a park ranger. Before that, I come from a highly conservation orientated. I was a federal conservation agent in Namibia. So I've done a lot of research, like Dave mentioned. A couple of years ago, I wrote a proposal. The county was wasting wood like crazy. And the statistics are like 900 trees a year that our forestry department took out and turned into mulch and gave away for free. Now the county has spent $100,000 in getting a mill and a commercial firewood splitter. So those are in place. The next step now is to use the wood. And this is where I see the opportunity with the guild. I see a bright future. This proposal here, with the guild, everything is going to be new and unique. So there's currently no fairy forest in America or the world. This is going to be number one. Which will bring millions, indeed. The original proposal was drawn up about a year ago. And since then, when I look on the internet to find designs and stuff, it's a lot more. So interest is growing. If we build a forest like this, designated to this, it's going to be a hit, I'm sure of it. And I can definitely, like Dave said, there's the opportunity for the guild to generate money from this. You'll just have to believe in it. But I can see this picture. It makes my eyes happy to look at things like this. A variety. Our forestry crew brought in like 10,000-pound logs that are about this high. It's already on the trail where we plan to have the forest. So we're looking for chainsaw carvers. Anybody. There's no restrictions or set limitations to anything. This is absolutely going to be artistic.
So the question was, what is the scale? That's
Random.
It doesn't necessarily, there's not going to be a building code that says, well, that door is just too small for the fairies, or it's too big. So if there's a variety, as long as it's miniature, okay, and diminutive.
Your example there is approximate size you want, isn't it?
The question is the example that I have sitting out there the approximate size? And it looks like, yes, it is. So yeah. But you know, if the picture of the one up there, that door is considerably smaller, I think, than that. No, not on yours, Keith. I know yours meets code. I know that yours meets code. I'm talking about Micah's down there at the bottom. That one, so the doors are not necessarily all consistent. Huh? Oh, it counts. This is on tape, you know. Dale said that Micah's didn't count. There, now it's on. Not that they can necessarily go into, but yes, there are plans to make it interactive with kids in that Micah has come up with the idea, and I know. Micah has come up with the idea that maybe we can have like a small, an old wheelbarrow that has things that they can manipulate. Exactly what those are, don't know yet. But that kind of interaction, not necessarily climbing in and around things, because we think that might be a little bit too, a little bit too interactive. What type of time frame are we looking at for this? As soon as we can, but Dries, was there an opening time frame?
Yes, we set a date just for ourselves, to get going by, I think it was end of May. But pretty much the guild's got 7 months before the art fair. So you've got 7 months to experiment, start creating things, including the epoxy. So the ultimate goal is both to make kids happy and for the guild to generate money. And of course, the park system is going to look good too. So one hand washes the other. That's what we're going for.
How many were we looking for in the park?
The original idea was like 1,000 of these. Right. And, like Dave earlier said, we're anticipating some losses. So through weather and people stealing it as well. Unfortunately, that's going to happen, so we have to be ready for it. A lot of these structures are going to be out of reach, a little bit higher up on the trees. Right. Another thing about the fairy forest, right now we've got a section of forest that's not used. So it's kind of like a conservation system. We want to show the public that there's other uses to the forest than that's currently in place. So we might be an example to a lot of different parks in the county and the rest of the country. I'm convinced this is going to work.
So are you going to be milling logs and stickering wood to dry to be used for epoxy projects? Is that what the goal is?
Yes, we already have a lot of mold lumber, and John over here is going to help us. He gave us a good idea to use those of you familiar with Faust, we've got a greenhouse that's not being used right now. We're going to turn that into a drying room for the lumber. Yep, thanks to John. So we're working on that already. So everything is running as it should be at this stage.
What kind of woods are you?
Anything you can think of.
What are you looking at that you have available to cut up?
The question is, what kind of woods have we been milling up? And for the most part, I think we did some hickory. Usually there's some oak in there as well, although I don't remember specifically if we milled up any oak. And we did do a little bit of walnut as well. And I think we also, I know we milled up some sycamore. I think, I doubt that. Right now we're just using the sawmill and putting it on there and making basically through cuts. So far we haven't manipulated to produce any particular kind of just plain sawn through and through is what we've been doing pretty much. We have, there is cherry, but I don't know that we milled any cherry up, but there is cherry logs that we have designated as these need to go through the mill. So a whole wide variety of things.
The epoxy plan, what are some of the things where you want to do tables? What were you wanting to do?
The question is what kind of epoxy projects were we planning on doing? And that was originally, tables was what comes to mind, but as we got into it, well, the cost is going to be the epoxy, and so smaller projects seem to be a little more feasible for what we're looking at now for the public, for the class type of setting. So something smaller, a smaller table or a charcuterie board or something along those lines for that. Well, I think if there's any other questions, we'll be here to answer them later, but I think we need to move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you all for your attention and for your time. I'm done, Tom. Yes, go ahead. You can clap.
And Dries and David, one of the things we talked about at our board meeting just a week ago in this project was to maybe have classes. I think the Guild has been very good at, I'm willing to come to a group of people doing something. I have no creativity at all. So I'm not going to be able to create like Keith did all those things and so on, but I'm happy to come to a group of things and, do a bunch of things together. And so think of that as another option of how you can utilize the Guild. Set dates and we'll see how many people we can get to show up and so on. Okay? Any other questions? All right. So I just put, instead of just me spouting off and not even having it on the program, but just telling you some announcements and so on, I decided to kind of put some things to remind myself what I would like to at least mention. We have a mentorship program. It's been led by John Bronson. John, you're here someplace. There he is. And I think he needs help. The Guild is growing, and we need to have this be a very active program and a very important program. We say that we have it, and we need to be able to put ourselves where our mouth is and so on, to actually be doing things and so on. So when people show up, when they sign up, they fill out a questionnaire, and one of them is, would you like to have a mentor? And we haven't done as good of a job as we should because we didn't have the ability, we didn't have the people and so on to be able to do that. Some of us, including me, seem to remember when I mentioned this at the last meeting, which is 2 months ago, if you remember, in November, somebody put their hand up and said that they would be willing to help with that, but nobody wrote it down. And if that person is here, would you put your hand up again? Because we don't know who that was. But anybody, we might be able to go back and look at the replay of the last meeting and so on and figure out who that is. But so we really, I think John would agree that he would like some help to be able to do a better job and to make this a more active part of our Guild. I also mentioned at the November meeting that we had one commissioned activity up to this point. It was refinishing and then remaking some signs for a garden group near the hill someplace. So Southwest Garden Association, something like that. It didn't go completely smoothly, but I can tell you that I think we're going to come away with about $2,500 or so, even if we don't satisfy them with the new ones that we were making. But it's too much for one person to do most of the work in addition to the organizing and so on. So what I think we need is another Guild advisory committee person who would be the screener. We get so many, especially Bill and I, get these requests from non-members who say, hey, got your name from Woodcraft or Rockler primarily, and could you help, could you help with doing this or whatever? And our pat answer is we send them a letter. If they're not guild members, and just say what we'll do for you is to send your request out to the 345 members or whatever we're up to right now, and then you deal directly with or anybody who's interested deals directly with them. That's kind of our pat answer and so on. And that might still be the pat, what most of them do. But some of them might, the screening person that I'm talking about, might find some things, you know what, that they're not a member yet, but they're going to become a member, and I think that could be a money-making project. We found out in our tour of the Kansas City Guild, which went from being way smaller than us to over 1,200 members in a 12,000 square foot shop, their primary source of income is not dues from, it is commission projects. They started with one commission project that made over $30,000. So clearly, if we want to in the future, and maybe we don't need a new shop, maybe we don't want a new shop, maybe we'll never be able to afford it, but I think this is a vital part of that look as we're doing a feasibility study for the possibility of a new shop. This has got to be in the program to some extent. The kinds of numbers we're talking about compared to just getting dues and so on is not even close. So please, if anybody has thought about it, I had somebody that I talked to for about a half hour, and they said they're still thinking about it. So I know who that person is, but maybe I'll have to get back with them a little bit and push them a little harder. But anybody who's interested, remember I told you when I started as the president that my goal was to have people become more active themselves, not just takers in this process of being in the guild, but givers as well, and volunteering in any way, shape, or form when opportunities avail themselves. We decided that we're not having a goal right now of making a new shop and how big is it going to be and where's it going to be and so on, but we need to at least be exploring the feasibility of whether we need a new shop, and if so, how big and so on, so that ultimately if we decide that we are looking towards making a new shop, we would then look into the backup of how much is that going to cost. And that's part of feasibility, isn't it? So can we afford it? Can we not afford it? Do we really need it? And so on. So we started by going and visiting Kansas City. Got a lot of great ideas. We've stolen a lot of those ideas and put them into operation, and it resulted, as an example, the sponsorship program. We're starting to get some income from things that we learned from the Kansas City visit. The next thing we did was go to Faust Park. Bill Schucott has a architect friend. They've been friends for over 30 years, if I remember, and he was willing to meet with us and David at Faust Park. Faust Park has been very kind to us, and I think we have a good relationship with each other, and we want that to continue. They've designated a part of the park, not where the Enchanted Forest is going to be, but another park. In fact, it's behind the carousel building. That's kind of where we're talking about. That they think would be okay to have, if we would want to build a new shop in Faust Park, that's probably where it would be. So the architect looked at that with us, and he's going to come back and give us his thoughts about it's kind of down below. We have to worry about pumping sewer upwards again, like you already do in the Faust Park, some other places. So we're in the process. We are now, we didn't know about this, but Quinn Saw, they're amazing people. They have a new shop over near the airport, and it turns out, they were the presenters in November, that they have too much space in their new shop. In fact, they have about 4,000 to 5,000 square feet. And they would be willing, in fact, they're looking for somebody who might be interested in leasing that area. And their old shop, in fact, would be open for somebody to look at for renting. I don't know the difference, or I know the difference, but I don't know why they're looking to lease one and rent the other one, or what's behind that. So we're going to get our committee together and schedule a meeting with the Quinn Saw people to go over, and this would be a second idea. The first one would be to build the shop. This would be to lease an existing building and so on. They would be wonderful, what's the name, that landlords. I think they would be, certainly, you couldn't find better landlords. They're just incredible people. So that's coming up next. We're also going to talk to the Makers Space people. They have a lot of equipment, and there's difference of opinion about how much space they have. Makers Space, but I'm not sure exactly. But anyway, we're going to look into working with them. Is there a possibility we might work with them in some way, even if it isn't sharing shop space and stuff like that? We absolutely, Vicki, you ready? We absolutely need volunteers to look at volunteering for filling spaces. We don't have a year that's January to January. Ours is the end of April until the end of April. The end of April. The election is in April. The April meeting is the election of new board members, including a president, a vice president, and the secretary and treasurer have expressed their willingness to continue next year. So, but it's still an election for those people, and a director, what's called a director. They're having some difficulty in finding volunteers for especially the president and vice president. So the president and vice president are not going to be here, and that's going to be as of the end of the meeting on April. We're going to be gone, so we need to get new people, and we've had strong people, and we need to continue to have strong people. So Vicki Berry is the president or the head of the nominating committee. She's the chair. And Vicki, I think, would like to expand.
Just a couple words. As Jay said, we are having reluctance, I guess, from some of our more seasoned members to step up to be president and vice president. I know it can seem like it's a daunting task to run this organization, but I think Jay will attest, and I as a past president will certainly attest, it's not as difficult as you may imagine. We are also looking at taking some of the vice president duties that Bill has taken on outside of the definition of that position, so that it is not as overwhelming and as much hardship as I think it really is now for Bill. So we're looking at that. We know we have a lot of talent and experienced people here in leadership positions in their past lives, and we would love to take advantage of that. So Wayne Humphrey, Tom Tierney, and I are the nominating committee, and we would love to hear from you. And as now on another note, as I was walking in tonight, I realized that we didn't have a cake tonight, which is what we usually do in January to just kind of celebrate our calendar year end. So if we can get some candidates by the end of the meeting today, I will be happy to bring in cake and ice cream at our February meeting. So how's that for a bribe? Don't be shy, and we would love to talk to you. Thank you.
We had a lot more treats when Vicki was the president, so we are missing that. I'm sorry. I did in my president's letter make a big deal about daunting task, yes, but I guarantee you that our executive board, which is 9 people, as well as a very large advisory board, have incredible talent. And so many people that somebody who's thinking about being vice president or president, they would have lots of help, as Vicki and I both said then. Any questions about that? Please come forward. Don't be bashful. All right. And then the final thing I put down, anybody know McGraw, Millhaven? media person talk show. It's 5:50, I think, on the dial. It's a morning program. He's a woodworker. In fact, he talks about it all the time in his program. He found out, he himself has gone to all the woodworking shows. He called the woodworking people himself personally. He found out that they have penciled in February 23rd, 24th, and 25th for St. Louis. They told him that St. Louis is the biggest market they have of all the woodworking shows, which kind of surprised me, because certainly they've gone downhill over the last 10 or so or more years. He doesn't have a site, because the places where it's been in the past, which have been in Collinsville, and it's also been at St. Charles at their place, they're booked, because this is kind of a late thing. But they need it. They apparently are willing to come. They have it penciled in. If anybody knows a possible place for a woodworking show, it's really unlikely going to happen because of the time to actually develop everything that needs to be developed. But McGraw would be really happy to hear from anybody who has any ideas about trying to make that happen then. So there's a limited chance that there might be a woodworking show. If not, I kind of have a feeling, if nothing else changes, that they will have time to plan it next year, and we'll be back next year. So, all right. Is the next one the present? No. So, I told you we have show and tell. Several people have signed up. Before everybody else comes up, I wanted to have people look at this magnificent 18-wheeler sitting up here. There is one woodworking store in Metro East, thankfully. I live in O'Fallon, Illinois, and it's in Trenton, excuse me, and it's called Kuntz Carpentry. So I went in there to give them some handouts and get a couple things and so on, and saw this on the wall there. It had a sign, $70, $50 on sale. Turns out that this was made by somebody in their business. I said, "Do you have plans?" They said, "No," because he just kind of did it himself. So there are no plans for this particular 18-wheeler. So what I'm showing it to you for is, first I talked to Wayne Humphrey about possibly having this ultimately, one of them being donated for the Festival of Trees and so on. I think it would look nice. Vicki helped to do the decoration and so on for that event. So I'd like somebody who likes to do things like making plans and so on, maybe volunteer to take this 18-wheeler home, so that we come away with actual plans that anybody in the guild could use in, like we do with a lot of other toys. I have a volunteer, but that person is kind of really busy, so I'd like another volunteer too to be able to do that. So that's the only reason I did not make this, but I could make another one if I had plans. I told you I have no creativity, so that's the reason that's not a show and tell. It's just to let you know about it. Okay, show and tell people. Bill Chicot. And start to come up, people in line that you kind of wrote down to be presenting and showing things that you brought in to tell about. And Bill is going to show a table.
Hi guys. What I brought in was a shaker table that I made, and this is now the #2 project in the fundamentals class. Previously we'd made a tool chest, and I found that a lot of the students didn't get it done. It was a bigger project with a lot more components than this. try as they might, a lot of them didn't get it done. So when we went to Kansas City last summer, they were making a table similar to this as part of their equivalent of our fundamentals class. Their program's a little different than ours. But I was very pleased with how the current class, which just ended, did. 3 people in the class, didn't 100% finish, but basically finished. And I thought given that I was asking them to build it, I figured I need to put one together and show them how it works. This one is cherry. It's finished with shellac. The top had a final top coat of polyurethane so that it doesn't get messed up when somebody puts a drink down on it. First time I'd done a tabletop with polyurethane and found a good YouTube video about finishing that. I thought it came out pretty nice. The polyurethane is a little bit cloudier looking than if it was just a shellac finish, but I thought it came out very nice. And this will be around at my house for a couple weeks, and I've already designated it for my cousin Roz. So, what this project has in it is primarily mortise and tenon joints, and we teach that as part of the class. The drawer requires dovetails and half-blind dovetails. We teach that as part of the class. At the beginning of the class, we teach everybody how to sharpen their tools, and we teach them how to square up a board. If you're going to build furniture and your pieces aren't square, good luck getting that put together. Feel free to come up and take a look at it. Actually, the class does not include the inlay. I took an inlay class from Don Snyder several years ago, and that's the first time I've done inlay in 3 years. It wasn't perfect, but I was satisfied, good enough that I can give it away. So.
And what's the wood? What's the wood in that band?
It's cherry.
No, in the band.
Oh, the inlay is maple.
Maple. You want a contrasting wood that can show off the inlay.
Yep.
Too. I think a lot of you would agree if you do the fundamental class, you'd like to go home with that than a toolbox. Beautiful. Rob Stout?
Yeah. My wife got a different refrigerator and it needed a surround. So I made this cabinet. This is a single piece, and then the top piece that's all squared up, and it's 2 cabinets, and then put the trim on. And then I had shaker doors that go all around the old cabinetry. So I made new shaker doors. I was able to get the wainscoting from the previous coverage for the old refrigerator. So I was able to kind of make that, and then this is the glue up of the shaker doors, and this is a coal to keep them flat. And then this is the finished cabinetry. So these were solid doors, and then the shaker doors up there. And then I thought that turned out pretty good. You know, the thing that I didn't like was the way this door hung. It's the right height, but then it slants down, and I couldn't quite figure out why that happened. Had something maybe to do with the hinges, but I'm gonna probably end up putting a shim in to pull that up and to bring it in, because this is about 1/8 of an inch, which is what I wanted it to be. and somehow I ended up with it about a ½ inch distance. So it's one of those things that I'm gonna have to keep tweaking it to try and get those doors to be just right, you know, so.
And what's the top coat? What's the finish?
It's a sprayed, polyurethane latex paint.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you get a bigger refrigerator, all you need to change is that middle piece of wood. You can make it bigger.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we won't get another fridge that doesn't fit.
Any
the other
questions?
one fit the whole space, you know. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Any questions for Rob?
Turned out pretty good, I thought.
Wonderful.
All right. Thank you.
Good
Brad
evening.
Bernhard.
I'm Brad Bernhard. I've done a number of these type of boxes over the past year and a half. I brought this one in because this is the first one I've added marquetry as a way to embellish the box. I started doing solid wood boxes, and then I flipped over to shop sawing my own veneer. This is one of several shop sawn veneer boxes that I've done. The joinery in this is the typical joinery that Doug Stowe taught us in the Superstar Weekend 2 years ago, and that is contained in some of his books. I would credit him for the tight joinery due to hidden splines. And other things, some of the jigs that I've built that he recommended using. The marquetry exploration I've gotten interested in mostly in the past year. The lid on this is a bird on a branch. This is one of the projects that's in a book we have in our library by Craig Vandal Stevens. I just turned it back into Al tonight after he reminded me that I've had it for longer than I should have. My apologies. In that book, he discusses ways to use a fret saw to do this style of marquetry. I'm also using this as a little bit of an advertisement because in May, it didn't show up tonight, but I'm the presenter, and I'm going to talk about marquetry and my experience in the past year. The last thing I want to say about this particular box is I had never done any type of wraparound picture on a box, and so the leaves that are below this bird, I flipped the other box that this was on after I made these and decided to put it together with this picture on the lid, and the technique of how that wraps around was my first time to do that, and I think it was fairly successful. Marquetry is a lot of fun, and the last thing I'll say is I brought in a new project that I'm starting, and I've got a sample of how it begins, and the transfer paper, this is an image off of the internet that was a picture. And once you learn some of these techniques, you can go experiment with a lot of different subject matter that you can find on the internet, from photography to cartoonish pictures. I have 2 pieces of shop sawn veneer that I brought in as well. And so I would encourage anybody that's interested to ask me some questions. I can be a resource for it. I hope you'll attend the May meeting, and I hope there's other people in the guild here that's together with us that has an interest in marquetry. I think it's fascinating. Thank you.
I don't think Brad gave the definition of marquetry, but it's basically the use of veneer enhancements to make a picture. You're making in that, wouldn't you say that's correct?
That is correct, and that's kind of what you'll see when you look at the piece. So you're constantly retracing stuff as you cut each individual piece and pop it in from below so that it fits quite tightly because of the bevel technique. Again, that's probably enough to say tonight, but in May there'll be a little more information and some other things about tuning up a bandsaw to do shop sawn veneer using a card scraper, which we just did a class on, to level veneer and can be used with many other projects. So anyhow, exciting stuff.
Thank you. Jerry, right?
No, Corey.
Excuse
Good evening, everybody. I'm Corey Donor, for the ones who don't know me. This actually is my first show and tell. I joined our guild about 2 years ago. Some of you have actually, if you were out at the guild shop, actually saw me turn this, which actually it was kind of nice to actually have those people there with me. It was kind of like a journey. Back in 2019, COVID, I had decided I was going to want to go turn with some of the greats like Mike Mahoney and Glenn Lucas. And I said, I'm going to go with Glenn. And I'm to tell you, he said, he's got a good school over in Ireland. It's a great time to travel. Well, COVID-19 happened. Nixed my trip. So I ended up getting his video, and then I actually had a chance to do a Zoom meeting with him. And eventually, I asked Glenn, I said, can you send me a piece of that Irish olive ash? Because this is actually native to Ireland. This piece actually was flown in, and believe me, if you have this in your backyard, hold on to it, it's a gold mine. But today what I actually present to you is the traditional Irish olive ash platter. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. You're a quick learner.
I'm Jerry Baines. I have a new granddaughter born New Year's Eve last year. So my wife says I have to build this chair for her. It was all her idea. And I just finished it up before her first year duration. The big challenge I had was trying to figure out how to do an inlay piece. If I buy the right templates, the first time it worked a lot better. But it's basically made out of oak that it's stained walnut with a couple of pieces of walnut dowel rods for the nose and so forth. The plans had the through screws, and then you put buttons on the end of it. So I just put pocket screws because it's on the bottom. Who's going to see it anyway? I think that cleaned up the looks quite a bit, and it's my 1 year project that I work on. And I got a favor. I was wanting to put a penny in the bottom of it, and I can't find a 2022 shiny penny. If anybody has one, and I'll glue it in the bottom. I don't have any change. Nobody uses change anymore. But there's the chair.
Good evening. My name is Craig Noel. I was putting my stuff up here, and I left my tag on the counter here. So now I'm official there. So I got a couple projects here. I've made a number of clocks, and a friend of mine, a friend of my sister's, had a red oak, or red maple that had to come down in the yard, and she asked me if I would make something. Didn't care what, but she wanted something out of that. Well, the tree was pretty rotten, but I got a couple of cookies that were 18 inches in diameter and about 5 inches thick, and it was still pretty green, so I didn't want to really wait years or whatever to do anything with it. So I split it, and just with a maul, a wedge, and a hammer, and split it down, and then finished up the sides and made this clock out of it. And it's simple as can be, I mean, anybody can, with a splitting maul and a bandsaw, that's what I did it with. Actually, I got 3 pieces out of here. The clock is just something you just pick up anywhere, drill a 2-inch hole in it with a Forstner bit, and I think they'll like it. And I've got a lot more of these wedges that I've got that I don't have a use for, or I do, but, so anyway, what I'm getting at is that I brought 3 extra, and they're for anybody that wants them. I've cooked them in the oven for an hour at 210 degrees, and it came out, my meter showed 11–12%. So I figured that was kind of good enough for this year. And so I'm going to leave them up here. Anybody wants them, help yourself. It comes out real when they're split. Actually, the edges are really rough. I just put it on the bandsaw and just smoothed that out, and then with a sander, sanded them down. This other little clock here, it's done with I think 7 pieces of veneer that I soaked in water, cut a form around it with plywood, and then pressed them together until they dried, and then pulled it off and coated them with glue and glued it together again, and did the same thing with a clock here. So this is just a little thing for a desk clock that if anybody wants to get into bending wood, a little project like this with just veneer works out really good instead of wanting to, resaw a bunch of wood. I saw somebody brought a piece of thicker wood that I think they tried to bend after they heated it up in water. Well, it didn't work. I didn't talk to the person, whoever that is, but I imagine it's because it was pretty thick. It looked like it was like 3/8 of an inch of thick or something. That's pretty thick. And the other thing, here's this gentleman's valet that I'm really happy with here. I kept this on my dresser. I built a dresser, a cherry wood dresser that I got all my wood I got for this cherry dresser. Couldn't bring it; it's way too big. Came from
You pick. You pick hardwoods.
Rob Stout. Sorry, Rob. He cut down a bunch of trees, had trees removed from his yard, and we did a little trade. He gave me the cherry, and I built this dresser. Anyway, I built this dresser, and my wife says, you're going to ruin it because all your crap is going to be on top of the dresser. I said, I got a solution for that. And then I saw this in Woodsmith, I believe it was the magazine, and it's really nice. The wood is spalted, I think hackberry, but it could be something else. I'm not sure what it is. The top here is maple, and there's another little piece of some exotic wood here that I don't know what that is either. I don't take very good notes when I'm making things. So anyway, if you got any questions, this is finished. This is finished with Deft brushing lacquer, 3 coats of that on there. I really like that finish, by the way. The other one, this is, anybody ever use Tried and True? It's a really good oil rub to put on it's really nice on bowls and turn projects, but it's good for anything too. This other one was a couple coats of shellac and then brushed on polyurethane. So that's what I got. Thank you.
So those of you who don't know what spalted means, it's wood that's basically moldy. It's got mold growing on it and so on that doesn't do a lot for the wood necessarily, but it has a lot of aesthetic qualities and so on. So it's favored by woodworkers and so on to make things, especially turning and so on.
Hi, I'm Wayne Humphrey, and last Thanksgiving I saw something on the internet about a guy who built a little box and using a scroll saw. And we probably all made a bandsaw box at some time. And so I decided to make one with my scroll saw. Took a piece of mahogany, just cut it just like you would a bandsaw box, and you end up with something cute like this. It's cute. It's not tremendously functional. It's about 1 ring in each drawer, but my wife likes it, and so I scored big points with that.
You bet.
There's a scroll saw beginners class, March 24th. If you don't own a scroll saw, it's a good chance to learn. If you own one, you know, maybe I can shorten your learning curve a little bit in 3 or 4 hours. And if you don't know what you can do on a scroll saw, take a look at the back table back there, what Rich Sanders brought in, and you can do some phenomenal work with a scroll saw. Doesn't occupy much space, doesn't create much dust. It's a good beginner piece of equipment.
Safe. It's safer than a lot of things for kids.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't look like this one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. So we'll need millions of these, right?
Is there one more or not? That's,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah.
I'm Tom Tierney. I do the Home Sweet Home Community Outreach Table Program. And this is a kit that I'm hoping someone will take home with them and put it together and finish it. It's mostly finished, just needs some good sanding. And we've been putting clear on it, but if you've got extra stain, you can certainly put it on here, whatever you want. So we're up to 181 tables that we've donated to Home Sweet Home, and we do have more wood thanks to Jay, and we'll have some out in the shed here next week. So get on the website, look at the program. It's a good program. People really like the tables, and we appreciate it when you get involved. And you know, some people can't afford the fundamentals class. You know, you can build this table for free.
The final thing before the raffle is another kind of show and tell, not something that I made. It's hard to keep good, expensive quality tools from getting rusty and so on. When I got some reasonably good Lee Nielsen planes, at the time, Lee Nielsen had these kind of socks of various sizes that went over the planes and so on. And they had Lee Nielsen right on there. Well, I know Lee Nielsen didn't make them themselves, but somebody else did. In fact, they had a lot of trouble with, like a lot of people with COVID and so on, to kind of recover from that. So I got, somebody got in touch with me from North Carolina, and he is in the business. His sacks are called Sack Ups. And so I'm just going, just as we're doing the program and so on, we can just pass this around and see. So I guarantee you, the one great value is it really does help to stop rust and so on. So this is a one for a number 4, actually a 604, a bedrock. So don't trash my bedrock for number 4 plane and so on. But you're welcome to take it out, look at it and so on. Dan? I believe it. Pistol stock? I believe you. Way cheaper than what he's selling them for. And they're treated, okay. Well, anyway, and this is his little saw container and so on. They're kind of neat. I had a bad axe saw that unfortunately I wasn't paying attention to, and it did get rust on it and so on. So these just a couple examples. He's willing to be a sponsor and give a discount, and I will at least send you out his thing. And then we ought to put an addition on there of Dan's source of something that would be very similar for a lot less than this. And he's also willing to give you the discount, but also to put a 5% straight to the guild, you know, something like that. So maybe we'll have to call it something other than a sponsor. So just start these around. Then I think we're ready for the raffle, right? Okay, so Joe Turner will ask.
We have 2 $50 Rockler gift cards to raffle off.
So somebody who is not in the drawing.
That'd be me.
That would be you. So you're gonna draw the first one?
I can't.
I'll hold it.
Okay, sure.
Get your tickets out to look at.
All right, 054, last three digits are 503.
Now you have to come up here again and be to draw the next one.
Last three digits, 664.
Vicky. Congratulations, Vicky. Okay, so we're ready for the actual program. You still have that last? Yeah. So I hate to admit, but I'd been in the Guild for quite some time, many years. I did not know the origin of the Guild in Faust Park. So there have been 5 people, Keith Lassant being one of them, who volunteered to help Faust Park with various things. Things would come up and they needed something repaired or whatever. And so these 5 people are still doing it in the Guild, have been there, and they go Tuesdays and Thursdays? Just Thursdays and so on. They've been going for, how many years has it been? Since about 2006 or so. So that has gone a long way towards our synergy with Faust Park and so on. So Keith, being one of those people and so on, has been working at Faust Park and working with them and knows a whole lot about the history. And I think that will be very valuable for us. So he's not going to just talk about his amazing people-powered scroll saw. He's going to go into the history of Faust Park, and I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you, Keith. I'll let you up first.
Okay, as we said before, about 2006, the Guild decided to have their picnic out at Faust Park. And when we did, Jesse, who is now the
Cultural Site Coordinator.
Cultural Site Coordinator, gave us a tour of the buildings that they had out there. At the time, there were 4, maybe 5 buildings in their village that had been moved from, in most cases, within a mile or 2 to the park. You can see 4 of the buildings. After the tour, we were sitting around having our picnic, and 3 or 4 of us decided that maybe it would be a good thing, since we're woodworkers and they needed a lot of woodworking repair stuff done, to try to volunteer out there. It turned out that I was the only one that was able to actually fit it into my schedule. So I started working out there using the maintenance department's tools. We didn't have the shop out there at the time, so I used the maintenance department's tools. Next slide. The first project that I worked on was at the Mertz cabin, which you can see here. And if you see on the far end of the porch there and the close-up, there's a dog-powered butter churn. The way it would work is that the dog would walk, trot on that treadmill, which would then turn the iron wheel, which moved a lever up and down, and you can't see it real well in that picture, but there's a bar across the top, and then the churn would hook onto the other end of that bar and move up and down so you could churn the butter. You didn't have to stand there all day. You let the dog do the work for you. It was a bit of a challenge in order to build it, to rebuild it, because I had to figure out what all the parts were and how they worked and so forth. But I did manage to get that done. The next project that I had was on the back of the Mertz cabin. The set of steps there was rotting away. It's an interesting set of steps. If you're familiar with building of a trestle table, you have a board with a long tenon on it that sticks through a mortise, and then a wedge that drives through that in order to hold it tight. Well, that's exactly how these steps were built. The 3 steps all have tenons on them that go through a mortise in the side. And then the top and the bottom step have a mortise in them so that the wedge fits down in and holds everything together. And then that's fastened to the back of the steps. So it was woodworking that a lot of us are familiar with, but it's something that I hadn't seen before. About that time, they got another building. They got the Alt Schoolhouse. And they took it apart in big wall sections, laid it on a flatbed truck, and moved it back here, and then reassembled it. When they reassembled it, well, I got involved after they had started reassembling it. I worked on the inside, putting in the floor, and building a raised portion at the one end for the teacher to be up on. But also, they had to make it handicapped accessible. So the door was just wide enough to be handicapped accessible, but it had a step up. So we designed a porch that went onto it, and then built a dirt ramp up to that porch. And you can see the handrails on the sides of the porch. When I built those, I wanted to make them a design that would represent a schoolhouse. So up at the top, you can't see it real well in the picture there. It sort of looks like a bird, but it's supposed to be an open book. In the center, there's a quill pen and a bottle of ink. And then across the bottom edge there are arithmetic symbols: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, so that you have reading, writing, and arithmetic for the school. The next project that we had, and was done basically the same way, was the general store. This was in Fenton, and we disassembled it, took it apart in big wall sections. and there's several of us. By this point, we had a number of other volunteers who had come out and started to help too, so that we helped, went down, took the building apart in big sections, loaded them on the flatbed truck, then hauled them back to the park and reassembled them. Then when we reassembled them, we had to repair double hung sash windows, and we built the back section of the main general store. They had some old printing tools, machinery, that they wanted to set up. So we built the cherry handrail around it to set it off from it, to keep it separate. And then we also had to make this handicapped accessible. So we had to enlarge the back door that you see there. It's a Dutch door when we made it, so that in theory you could open the top and just let people look in from the outside, or you can open it all the way and let people in. And we built a ramp on the back side of the building that a wheelchair could get up, turn, and come in. Also part of the general store, it was set up as a post office, and we had a bunch of old mailboxes that we built, that we refurbished the mailboxes themselves, got them functional, and then built the case for them to be inside the general store. The second side of this general store was a carriage shop, auto repair shop in its lifetime. And so at the moment they've got a number of carriages there. The one shown here is an old mail truck, and we had to rebuild. Al Carlson did most of the work on this. Rebuilt the whole upper portion of it with the windows and so forth to fit onto the wagon, so that we'd have the old mail truck. One of the buildings that they've gotten recently was an old schoolhouse for the black people, black students. It's one of the few that still exists, and it was found as somebody was using it as a garage. They had cut the door out of the end of it and had a very large opening for the garage door. And the two side windows here, they had cut all the way down to make doors to go into their house. So they were going to just tear it down and build a bigger garage on their house. And Jesse managed to talk them into donating the building. They had to go over there and dismantle it. They took it apart log by log by log, marked each one of them so that they knew where they went back in. And then, for instance, the logs under the windows here had to be replaced with full-length logs. We had to frame in for the front door, build the front door, build windows for it, and repair shutters we had some old shutters that were in fairly bad shape that we had to rework, and those are hung on the outside. You can see the finished schoolhouse there on the other side at the dedication. Channel 9 also came out and did a program on this schoolhouse, the rehab. There were 2 or 3 sessions. This is one where they came out and got some pictures of us in the shop, fixing one of the shutters there and building a door for the entranceway. One of the projects that we don't always do old projects. Some of the stuff is new projects. And one of the ones that we're working on, but it got sidelined because of other buildings that have to be rebuilt. The schoolhouse, the black schoolhouse being one of them. And there are 2 other log cabins that are apart and will have to be rebuilt before we can get back to this. But we started to build a demonstration building that would show a bunch of the different types of joints that people would have used, so that they're not nailed together. They've got locking joints. And you can see a couple of them on the far side there. There are a couple more on this side. And in some cases, they're held together with dowel pins. Another project that we had is we took this wagon and built a chuck wagon box for the back end of it that they can use for their chuck wagon dinners. It can be removed so that this wagon is sitting out in front of the blacksmith shop right now without the box on it, but when they have the chuck wagon dinners, they can drop the box in it and use it for the dinners. Then we get to some of the fun stuff. They have several different festivals and programs out at the park. Some of them we have gotten involved in. At Halloween time, they have one of the things that they asked for were a couple of coffins. So we built them 2 coffins. We built one first, and they liked it a lot, so we built a second one. We used as much of the old technique as we could for building them. And you can see the top in this close picture here. On the far side, we've got 2 of the coffins standing there. The people have great fun looking at the coffins and standing in front of the coffin like they're in the coffin. We've also had a few people who have hissy fits about their kids wanting to do that. They don't want them in a coffin. Another one of the things that they have is a fall festival. And I think this is probably the one that we have the most fun at, because one of the buildings is an old shop that we've set up. We built the chandelier that's shown in the one picture there. and we demonstrate the use of old tools. We've got a shave horse there that they can use and see how to use a spoke shave and a draw knife, things like that, to make round tables or chair pieces and that type of stuff. Dave uses those to make chairs. Does a lot of draw knife work. One of the other things that we have there is a spring pole lathe. And you can just see in the picture that there's a rope here that goes up to a pole at the ceiling. And you push down on a treadle on the bottom, and that turns the piece of wood that you're going to turn, and you can carve on it. When you get to the bottom of the stroke, you let your foot back up, and the spring pole pulls it back up. The hardest thing about working with a tool like this is that on a modern lathe, you go in and you just keep working. With a spring pole lathe, when the wood goes backwards, you've got to pull the chisel back off of the wood. So it's in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out. We're in the process right now of building a pedal power drive for this lathe. We've got the parts made, but it takes a lot of adjustment, and we haven't had time. We got called away on other projects, so we haven't gotten back to it. As I said, we use a lot of the old tools. Got a brace and bit here that we use to, actually these pictures are pictures of that demonstration building that I was telling you about, so that when we put a wooden peg in it, we drilled it with a brace and bit. We cut all of the mortise and tenons with chisels and saws the way that they would have been done. And obviously we use a lot of hand planes. Now, one of the other, my toy is this pedal-powered scroll saw, which we use at the festivals. And we've used it at the Woodworkers shows and so forth. People love to sit and watch this. This saw was actually built in 1876. It's got a date stamped on it, patent pending 1876. So the patent was not, we know that the patent was issued. It was issued about 3-4 years later. So by 1880, they would have had patent number such and such printed on them. You can get a lot of replicas of these. This happens to be an old one. I first saw one of these down at Silver Dollar City and had a chance to buy it, except when I was newly married, $400 was a lot of money. And besides that, I had to figure out how to transport it from Branson, Missouri, up to St. Louis. And obviously, they're not the easiest things to carry around. I happened to be in Webster Groves in one of the hardware stores there and saw a flyer for a sale, auction that they were having there, and they listed this. I called them up and said, first of all, is it really there, part of the auction? And they said, yes. Does it work, or is it broken? I have looked on the internet and seen a lot of them for sale, and if you really look closely, you find out that one of the legs is broken on them, or they're broken someplace else. And he said, no, it's perfectly fine working. We wouldn't ordinarily sell it at something like a small auction like this, but we have to sell it. The person needs to sell it. So I arranged to get there for the auction. I think actually I was the only one bidding on it. I had asked ahead of time what they expected to get for it. And what they expected to get for it was about the same that I would have paid down in Branson for a replica. And so I figured, okay, I'll go try. And I think they had one or two people that were in there bidding it up so that I would go that far. Because obviously, you start at $100 and you bid up. But I wasn't worried about going that high. But I did get it. I have had to do a little bit of repair work on it. The piece here cracked, and so I made a brass cap here to take the stress off the wood. And whoever had the saw before had put a thin piece of plywood nailed down on the top here, which was in pretty bad shape too. I removed that and sanded it all smooth. It works exactly the same way that the scroll saws do. And I can use the same scroll saw blades that I use on my powered saw at home. I think this one is a number 3. We do use a lot of other hand tools and so forth out at the park. When we get a project, one of the first things we look at is how would it have been done period-wise. Basically, the village and the park is from 1860, time of the Civil War, till 1910, 1920, somewhere in there, for the buildings that are out there. So we try to use techniques and materials as best matched to what would have been done in that time period. We have done some blacksmithing. We have some people out at the park that are much better blacksmiths than we are, so we don't do a whole lot of it. But there have been a couple of times that that we've needed something made and didn't have somebody available to do it. So Jesse let us fire up a forge and make something ourselves. So some of the catches and some of the hinges and things like that, gate closures, we have actually made too. And just a last word on this. It's the work that we're doing volunteering to the park that pays our rent for the shop. Because of what we're doing out there for the park, and I don't quite know how it originally happened, whether it was Jesse's idea or whether it was Wayne Watson's idea or how it was, but it was decided that we could take an old chicken coop out there that was basically just being used as storage space, and we got into it and cleaned it out. The park put the wood-burning stove in there for us, and has basically let us do what we want in there. There are some restrictions. We've had to make sure that we have 2 exits because the fire marshal's not happy if we don't. We had to put in a fireproof cabinet to store the paints and so forth in it. But largely it's the relationship between the park and the guild that lets us work out there. There are some guild members out at the park, and there are some other people who have been trained on the use of the tools. We don't too much we would rather have them come to us on Thursdays and say, can you do this for us? But occasionally, I know Dave goes in and does things for the park in the shop. Occasionally, someone else will come in and learn how to do something. But again, they have to have the safety program, just like our people do. So that's basically the history of us at Faust Park. Yes.
When did the wood shop start?
I don't know for sure. I'm guessing 10, 12 years ago. I'm guessing around 2010, 2011, but I don't know for sure. I don't remember.
13, I think. That's the earliest record that I have of anyone taking a safety class. 2013.
Any other questions? And wait for the microphone, if possible. Sorry.
Yeah. I do have a couple of other of the tools that we use sometimes. This is a tap and die for wood, so that you can if I can get it off. You can thread the end like a broom handle would be. It's stiff. The wood's swollen, but you can make a nut. And as we had on pictures, we have a number of planes that we use for shaping planes. The park has a number of those that we use for demonstration purposes. Shoulder planes, rabbet planes, fancy cut trim planes.
Thank you so much, Keith. And the more I learn about South Park and our relationship, the more impressed that I am. I can't believe that it took me until 6 months ago to even find out about the 5 of you and so on in that relationship. What he didn't tell you about that second slide with the dog, and was it churning?
Yeah, it's a
butter churning.
Butter churn.
Dog used to weigh 200 pounds. Used to. We did have our Faust picnic there last year, and those of us who were there were able to take this remarkable tour with an incredibly smart and the tour guide was unbelievable. So we got a chance to look at a lot of these. And it's going to be at Faust Park again next year. So you can look forward to signing up for the Guild picnic in some a little bit warmer weather. So anyway, I did check one last time, and I think we're good till about midnight. So you should have, but be safe going home. Any other questions? And we'll see you next month, though.